According to the WHO, 87% of deaths in high-income countries are attributed to chronic diseases. This statistic applies to everyone here in this room. Medtronic is working to lower this statistic through innovation and research and bringing these developments to emerging nations. My partners Eddie and Francesca and myself, John, we will go over the history and growth of Medtronic, its present endeavors, and its development of future innovations. Now I'll hand it over to Eddie, and he will tell you about the mission statement and the history of Medtronic.
So the mission statement says to contribute to human welfare by application of biomedical engineering and in the research, design, manufacture, and sale of instruments or appliances that alleviate pain, restore health, and extend life. Now, why is this mission statement very important? Well, it's been there since the beginning. So this statement hasn't changed word for word. And that reflects on the company's value and to achieving this mission. So the history, this company was founded in 1949 by Earl Backen and his brother-in-law, Palmer Hermanslatt. They built a medical repair shop in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and they repaired medical equipment. That's all they did. So their first month, according to Medtronic, was not that successful. They only made $8 profit, so it wasn't as successful as they wanted it to. And the following months, they started increasing with the help of the Minneapolis hospital. So all these years, they've been only repairing equipment, and it was until 1957 when they met with Dr. C. Walton Lillehei, a very good, high reputed cardiac surgeon, and he requested a pacemaker since the pacemaker he used was not that good. He had a lot of defects. The biggest one was probably a plug, and his patients couldn't move, and then there were like lights out, blackout, and the lights went out, and people died from that. So 6 weeks later, Backen comes, and his brother-in-law come with the innovative pacemaker, and Lillehei was very astounded with this new pacemaker, and he gave him recognition, and all these other companies found out about this guy, and that was when Medtronic started rising. So on 1969, all these years have been just growing. They've been growing, and exponentially they're worth from thousands to millions. So in 1969, they decided to move overseas, to Europe, to Asia, to Latin America, and they started buying other companies. That was a big thing, and Francesca's going to talk about that later on. And on 1993, the PCD defibrillator was introduced to their company, which was also a huge hit. So they started this appliance, made a huge substitute with pacemaker. People confuse the pacemaker with the defibrillator, and it's a quite new different thing, different function. So now I'm going to hand it over to Francesca, and she's going to talk about the present endeavors.
So this is the business revenue mix of 2015, and as you can tell, about $9.4 billion was spent on cardiac and vascular groups, so that's kind of what their main focus has been recently. Medtronic is presently the second biggest medical equipment distributor in the world, employing over 85,000 people and growing. And they've been very big into charitable contributions recently, so they started Medtronic Foundation, which then has sub-branches and sub-organizations, two of the biggest ones being Health Rise and Heart Rescue Project. So Health Rise is a 5-year, $17 million global effort to expand CVDs, which is cardiovascular disease, and diabetic care. So this isn't only just for America, it's in India, South Africa, and Brazil as well, and the primary objective is to increase screening and diagnosis, as well as the management and control of this disease to lower mortality. On the other hand, Heart Rescue Project is for sudden cardiac arrest, and that's for the treatment of it, and to show that it is treatable. You don't have to die just because you go into sudden cardiac arrest. So another huge thing that's happened in the last few years is the purchase of Covidien in 2014. Covidien is an Irish program, which make them Irish-based as of now. They said that if the U.S. were to change their laws as far as taxation goes, that they'd come back, but right now they're avoiding $17 billion in taxes. So don't really see that going. But now I'm going to give it over to John, and he'll tell you about the future.
According to Medtronic's website, Medtronic has invested $1.5 billion in research and development in the past year. Medtronic has invested in meaningful innovations such as the world's smallest pacemaker, which is a game changer in treating strokes caused by blood clots. In addition, Medtronic is also working on the first artificial pancreas. Globally, Medtronic is working to improve patient outcomes around the world. 400 million people lack proper access to care, according to the WHO. Medtronic is working to improve the infrastructure, therapy awareness, and education in these developing nations. Some examples of this would be working with the Chinese Health Agency to improve diabetes care, working with emergency groups in Brazil to get heart attack patients to the hospital quicker, and working with community workers in India to stem hearing loss from easy-to-prevent infections. Over the past 5 years, Medtronic has worked to train thousands of medical professionals around the world. Now I'll hand it off to Eddie for conclusion.
Okay, so we talked about Medtronic, their history, how they started, how they started improving, innovating, all this new stuff, and then we talked about the present endeavors, the revenue mix, how they started dividing the charitable groups with diabetes and all this good stuff, and then we started talking about the future, the artificial pancreas pacemaker, that we're all interested in one day hearing, and their research, how much they're investing, to start innovating even more. And we want to thank you guys for listening to us for our presentation. Hopefully you learned something today, and I'm going to leave it open for questions.